Hey guys, in this episode we're going to talk about the G9840, the kind of funky looking German contract rifle from Hungary. So before we talk about the G9840, we need to talk a little bit about the history behind this gun. And to do that, we need to go back to Hungary before World War I. So you probably already know that Hungary was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I, and the Hungarians used the Mannlicher M95s and 8x50R, and it used a little M-block clip, obviously, because it's a Mannlicher. Well, fast forward after the war, the Hungarians are now their own country. They kind of have these leftover Mannlicher M95s. You know, they rework them. Eventually, they adopt the new Spitzer 8x56, and they're still kind of making progress with the M95. Kind of the last thing the Hungarians do with the M95 is make the M or the 31M, which is kind of like a, if you looked at it, it just kind of looks like a normal M95 Mannlicher. For whatever reason, the Hungarians are getting to the point where they want to get rid of these Mannlicher straight pull rifles. Not really sure why. I kind of have a feeling that they want to get rid of it, kind of the same reason why the Swiss wanted to get rid of their 1893. The bolts are, pretty complex on them. And after a lot of those M95s were reworked a few times, the bolts kind of get sticky. You can see my video of me shooting my M95. The M95 action, especially once they're reworked, is not the smoothest, best action. So the Hungarians are looking for a new rifle. So the Hungarians, they're wanting to keep their 8x56R for obvious logistical reasons. Changing a caliber is kind of a nightmare. So when they're wanting to keep their same ammo and possibly the same, M-block loading clip system, for training purposes for the troops, there's kind of only a few options that you can really choose from if you want, a big, rimmed cartridge on a clip, on an M-block clip. And what they went with is pretty much what's already existed out there for many decades. This Mannlicher Schonauer system, like this is a Dutch M95 carbine, has a Mannlicher magazine. So the Hungarians pretty much look at this design. It's an affordable gun to adopt. It's pretty much tried and true by a number of countries out there already. And the Mannlicher Schonauer is what the Hungarians adopt, and they call it their 35M. I did a video on the 35M already. If you want to check it out, I'll put a card up here. So the Hungarians were allies with the Germany sort of before the war. The Kingdom of Hungary was kind of close with the Germans before. Obviously Hungary was allies with the Germans when they were in the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I. Kind of close afterwards. They officially became allies in 1940. So Hungary joined the Axis powers in 1940, and also in 1940 the Germans were pretty much looking for getting as many guns as they can. They started many sort of substitute rifle programs right around then. But the 9840 being one of those. So when the Germans signed the contract with Fimaru in Budapest for these 9840 rifles, pretty much what they were looking for is a 35M that could pretty much sort of be a substitute for their K98K. So they want a gun that kind of copies a lot of the features, and that a soldier that was maybe trained on a K98K could also pick up and use this 9840 just without any additional training. It's pretty straightforward. You have a turn down bolt handle just like on a K98K. They replaced the Mannlicher magazine system on the 35M with this sort of Mauser box style magazine. And of course they changed the bayonet lug so that this rifle can take a standard German bayonet. Also takes a standard Mauser cleaning rod like that's on the K98K. They also took the sight hood that was on the K98K pretty much and adopted it for this gun, although the sight hood for the 9840 is just a little bit different, and this one's obviously missing it. So Fimaru made approximately 138,400 of these 9840s for the Germans. Now that's not a small number by any means, but like on the scale of all the guns that were made during World War II, where a lot of guns like K98Ks were made in the millions, and a lot of guns were made in the millions. These aren't like the most common sort of German substitute gun that you'll find, but these 9840s are a lot more common than 35Ms and the 43Ms. Obviously, the 43M is pretty much this 9840 that the Hungary adopted for itself. Handling of the 9840, it's very K98K. Now, having a 35M before, this feels almost exactly like the 35M. But the sights, everything kind of matches up with the K98K, so probably feels a little bit more like a Mauser than a 35M. However, probably the biggest difference whenever you are using this gun or working the bolt is the fact that the bolt handle is now in front of the receiver bridge. So on a K98K, the bolt handle is typically back here, and this is not a huge difference, but it really feels like a big difference. It's one of those weird things where it just has to have something to do with maybe body mechanics or something. But the bolt handle being a little bit further forward makes this a little bit more of an awkward feeling gun. Also, the 9840, it's a cock-on close design. So unlike a K98K, you have a little bit extra spring tension that you have to fight whenever you're closing the bolt. And I think with this cock-on close design, with this turn down handle, so it just makes an overall semi-uncomfortable feeling gun. Because it's cock-on close, whenever you're closing the bolt from the shoulder, you can't really give the bolt a lot of velocity and kind of just make it close smoothly, kind of like you would with an infield being cock-on close, or maybe another cock-on close like Mauser action, like a Swede. Something about this one, I can feel a lot of like pressure and strain being put on my left arm, so I don't really feel like working this from the shoulder like you probably should. It's a little bit easier and more comfortable to work this from the just kind of down a bit. Now, in contrast, the K98K is just so much nicer. Just a lot less sort of undue pressure on my left arm as I'm trying to, you're not trying to overcome a bunch of spring tension with the gun. I think the bolt handle being as far back as it is on the K98K, kind of rear of the receiver bridge, it makes a really big difference, I think, especially with a turn down bolt and with a cock-on close turn down bolt with the bolt handle forward to the receiver. I just see those three things as kind of being a triple negative to this action. Not terrible. It's doable. It's fine. It's just not quite as good feeling as a K98K. So it's kind of obvious based on Hungary's geographical location. They did most of their fighting on the Eastern Front. Eastern guns kind of just tended to stay on that side and fight the Russians. Therefore, not a lot made it, to the Western Front, and not a lot were brought back, to the United States and to, the other allies. So a lot of these guns ended up being captured by the Russians, and just like the K98Ks, the Russians took the 9840s into their rearsenaling systems, stored them up. They did the whole same process that they did with the Russian captured K98Ks. And what you have here is a Russian captured G9840. Probably one of the first things you'll notice about this gun is it's got a really dark stock finish on it. That's not really the best looking finish. This is the shellac that the Russians put on a lot of their captured guns. That's the same shellac that they put on their K98Ks. Kind of compare that with this non-Russian captured 9840 here. Also, one of the things that they did with this 9840 that they did exactly to the K98Ks is they blackened all the parts that originally were in the white. So kind of like on a K98K, originally the butt plate was in the white. The Russians blacked it. They did exactly that to the butt plates here. So here's just a regular 9840 and the butt plate's still in the white. And before I bought this, I've never even heard of Russian captured G9840s. But I mean, it does kind of make sense. This gun, it's got an import stamp on it. I think this was just brought in with all the Russian capture K98Ks when all of those guns were imported. Luckily, nobody refinished this or anything, so it still has the original, Russian shellac on the stock. I took the action out of the stock, and it's just gunked up with cosmoline. It's just, I mean, it's so much cosmoline, it's more than I wanted to clean. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it kind of preserves the rifle's history if you just leave it in the original condition that it came into the country. So this is exactly how the gun was whenever the Russians, refinished it, and just pretty neat little piece of history that you don't really hear much about. Now the name G9840, it's kind of a misnomer, because the G98 part of it kind of makes you think that this is like a 98 action, like it's a Mauser 98. But not so. This obviously doesn't really have hardly anything to do with the Mauser. It's just the nomenclature that was picked. Doesn't seem like there's any clear consensus on why G98 was picked. I heard an opinion that they thought maybe it was easier to get adopted by the German military if they called it a G98, /40. Obviously, the /40 is for the year that it was adopted. There's a lot of other XX/40 guns out there, like this G2940. My opinion is that how it says on the side of K98Ks, mod 98, they pretty much just took a 35M and kind of mod 98'd it, so that it kind of was just like the German Model 98, which was their K98K. So I kind of think maybe that might be why it's got the G98 nomenclature, but I can speak freely on the subject because I don't have facts to stand in my way. Now, as a collector looking to get into one of these, this is kind of a gun that you get just to kind of fill that spot in your collection. I personally want to collect all the German substitute rifles from World War II, so that's kind of why I got this, to get to that aim. As a shooter, it's not that much. It's unique. It'll bring a unique experience to the range if you like different kind of stuff. But honestly, I would rather take a K98K or some other Mauser or even an Enfield to the range than to take this 9840. It's just not like the most fun shooting gun. I would just never reach for this for fun. Not to diminish the historical aspect of this gun. It's very neat and it's cool that it's different. I like all that stuff, but like as a shooter, maybe don't get this if you just want a shooter. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Rice Farmer Ryan, thanks for commenting always like you do. I'll see you next time.